first interviewed Polly in 2015. We sat along the shore of Carroll Lake where Polly built Potter's house and where she's lived the last 17 years. She wore a pink bathing suit for the occasion in anticipation of swimming with her grandkiddos after the recording. I've known Polly nearly 35 years, and we've shared numerous stories together. Stories of horseback rides and swimming, hospital visits and holidays. We've shared victories and misunderstandings, words of encouragement and apologies, times of prayer and fasting, fun and laughter, and most of all, a love for Jesus that is the foundation of our friendship. But what compelled me to document this particular aspect of Polly's story is her attitude toward cancer and her odyssey of treatments and surgeries and death. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 has been Polly's stay through this journey, and I've witnessed Polly entrust her own understanding and her life's circumstances to God, believing His heart of love for her and His kind leading in her life.
You just have to trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. Acknowledge Him in all your ways, and He will direct your paths.
The way I saw my faith in God wasn't something that I was actively pursuing. It was more like, I know God's there, and I know He's taking care of me, and I appreciate it. And then I would do my thing. But when I moved back in here, when I moved back with my mom, my faith came alive. It's almost like seeing my mom battle cancer every day, seeing her have a determination to get as much done each day as she possibly can, to accomplish as much as she possibly can, to experience as much as she possibly can each day. That kind of mindset and that kind of attitude, it's like an eternity attitude.
Seeing my grandmother, I want to be that type of person. Not necessarily exactly like her, because I still love me for me, but I still, she's someone to look up to, and it's kind of a good feeling to finally be able to have someone I can look up to. And to be honest, I think my faith kind of grew with God because of my grandmother. When I learned about God, it made me feel happy.
Polly has a ready laugh, an inquisitive mind, a teaching spirit, and a bold approach to everything.
Mom's crazy. Crazy in a good way. I say that. My mom is crazy. Seriously. My mom is crazy. But it's not a bad kind of crazy. It's an adventurous, courageous kind of crazy. The kind of crazy that I want to have when I'm older. But I want to have that kind of crazy where I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what anyone does or what they believe about me. I want to just do what I want to do. And that's what she does. She just does it. And it's pretty awesome. She's definitely someone I look up to.
She's adventurous, crazy, and doesn't know the word stop when it comes to her body limits. Define crazy, her horseback riding when she's in a lot of pain, or her deciding to try to go do the garden, or her deciding, oh, I've got to walk a bunch, or just any physical exercise that she knows she feels like she can do.
And so I was at a point in my life where I had to have a change, and so I just decided, well, I'll go somewhere. I didn't know where. I went, okay, well, when I get to the West Coast, I'm going to toss a coin. Either I go to Hawaii or I go to Alaska. So I did. I got to the West Coast, and so I did that, and it came up Alaska, so I flew to Alaska, so I didn't have a vehicle. Since I didn't have a vehicle, I said, well, I'll just get a chauffeur's license and drive a cab. That way I have a vehicle, and I'll be able to get around all over the place.
Not only did Polly drive a cab in Anchorage, Alaska, she also worked as a journalist for a senator in Washington, D.C. She worked as a barmaid for a short stint, 6 weeks, in Rock Springs, Wyoming, and she retired as a junior high teacher in Soldotna, Alaska. Polly wrote a weekly column for the Peninsula Clarion, Perils of Polly, and she's authored several books. Her latest book is a children's book she's dedicated to her grandchildren, and she's painted all of the illustrations.
I want to read it to you guys. It's Sissy Sea Otter, okay? By me. And we got lots of illustrations here.
Did you paint it?
I painted it. See? It's dedicated to. Look at that. Kendall, Celine, Sindel, Jasmine, Judah, and their children. Sissy. Sissy sucked the meat out of the leg. It was sweet and chewy. She savored every bite before swallowing. This was almost as good as her mom's milk. Do you see any sea anemones in there? Yeah. What's this thing?
A starfish, and this is a crab.
Yeah. What are these black things?
They're the mussels.
Mussels. There we have a picture of the underwater world.
Polly loves to explore, and she's traveled extensively.
When you go on these trips, what are some of the things that you're looking for?
Fun. Yeah, just doing stuff that's fun.
And you go out on these trips and you don't always know the language, you're traveling internationally, and do you always have an agenda, an itinerary?
Sometimes, sometimes I have I always have a vague idea in my head. If you go to some countries, you have to be more than vague. You have to have an itinerary. Especially, I just figure I can figure it out. My Australia trip was not get in a camper van and drive. I had one thing booked that was on a trip on the Great Barrier Reef, and I had to make sure that my daughter, who was 16 at the time, had scuba diving lessons, and so we just went up the East Coast and did that, and then from then on it was 6 weeks of just going from one place to the next and just having a great time. That was probably one of my most fun trips. Was just driving around Australia.
She took me to Australia when I was 16, and we spent 6 weeks driving around in a camper van, just the two of us.
The first hike was into the rainforest down in Australia, and she got leeches all over her. She did not like the leeches.
What most people don't realize about a rainforest in Australia is it's full of leeches. It's wet, and they climb up plants, and they wait for animals to brush up against the plants, and they cling to them. I'm walking along, and I get a leech on me, and these leeches, they go through your socks. They don't just look for skin. They can go through your socks. And I got one on me, and I told our guide, I said, hey, I got a leech on me. It's like, oh, don't worry, it'll fill up and drop off. When I got the fourth leech on me, it was huge, and it looked like it had skunk stripes down its back. It was dark and it had two white stripes down its back, and I flipped out. I've never seen a leech with white stripes down its back, and I panic mode.
Polly lives bold, and when cancer manifested in her body, she applied the same bold approach toward the challenges she's faced. Ever the teacher, Polly openly communicates, as she claims them to be, the adventures that cancer presents, as well as the processes of growth her faith undergoes, and her perspective toward death's looming presence. She blogs her experiences and posts regularly on Facebook to update her circle of influence on the status of her odyssey.
I got diagnosed with cancer back in, when was that? Back in, when I was 50. I thought I got that beat, but it came back in 2013. So now it's metastatic stage 4, so oh well, so now I'm dealing with that one. And that's been it's been a journey. It's been an adventure. So I ended up one time having a little lump, and it was in the incision, because I had a replacement. That's all I can think of. An artificial boob. I can't think of the word. Put in, and in the incision there was another lump that formed, and they took it out, and yes, it had cancer cells in it. So I'm going, okay, I'm still dealing with it. So I had back fusion surgery in March because the vertebrae, that's where it first went from the breast cancer to the bone. It was in the 4th lumbar vertebrae, and it had slipped about this much out of my spine, and so I had severe stenosis. Could hardly walk, but I could still ride.
It's all about the horses.
It's all about getting on my horse. So I had to get my hips replaced, like I said before, at age 25, and they've had to do it 5 times more since then, each time because they wear out. And so that's been very difficult.
Polly's calculated she's undergone some 30 surgeries: hips, back, knee, hysterectomy, mastectomy. Her body has the appearance similar to a Tim Burton character, but from her attitude, you'd never suspect it, for her attitude reflects what she considers important.
I believe that, my upbringing had a lot to do with how I perceived myself, and I had total encouragement by my mom and dad, to be who I wanted to be. And so I grew up believing that I was okay. And I never thought of myself as being beautiful, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter to me. I thought of myself as being cute. And I didn't have any problems, attracting boyfriends or anything like that. And I didn't care. I just thought of myself as being cute and having fun. That was my life goal. Having fun.
Always up for a good time, in spite of the progression of the cancer, Polly hosted her 2018 annual pirate party. She donned a bathing suit and floated in the sun as she watched her pirates capture the flag on Carroll Lake and joust from canoes and hunt for hidden treasure. And they gathered around the fire to eat a hearty meal with their mateys. Polly loves her family and her friends, and leaving a legacy of joyful trust for each of us is paramount to her heart.
This is a tent. This is not my body. It's part of my being right now, but it's temporary. God can take my tent any time. I really don't care. The sooner the better.
So talk a little bit about where you are currently with cancer.
I'm dying.
So do you have a bit of fear?
No, I really don't. No, I trust him. Fear is not from God anyway.
So when you're a little kid and you're in like kindergarten or first grade and your teacher will inevitably ask you, who is your hero? Little kids almost always say their parents because that's who they know. They know their parents. And then you'll get asked again when you're older, say, 5th, 6th grade, maybe junior high. And it might evolve to a sports star or a movie star or someone you've seen on TV who just seems like a super awesome person. Then when you hit high school, your hero becomes more philosophical. Say Mother Teresa is your hero, or Aristotle, or Gandhi, or Confucius, or someone who's made an impact on the world around us. And then you finally grow up and you realize who the real heroes are. And mine is my mom. My mom is amazing. She is the most courageous, the most faithful, the most loving, the most forgiving, the most fearless person I know. She's an incredible person, an incredible woman, and she has taught me more than I would ever learn otherwise.
That's our job here in this life, is to be a light. And whatever we have to go through in this life, rejoice and be exceedingly glad. Because great is your reward in heaven. That's where I'm going. And that's where I will have my best body.